I'm sorry, pass. Hi everyone, good morning. It's already 8:36 Western Indonesian time, thus case building time is over. We're going to start the Novice quarterfinals very soon, but before that, a quick roll call. Opening government, Mataram, are you guys here? And complete. Opening government.
Yes, I'm here. Give me a minute.
Yeah, it's still a roll call, so chill. Opening opposition, are you guys here and complete?
Here and complete.
Here and complete. Cool. Closing government, are you guys here and complete?
Yes, we're here and complete.
Lampung, are closing opposition, are you guys okay? Confirm complete on the chat. Now, judges, me, myself, Shanti, I'm going to chair the room. Maybe we can go around, all the panels can introduce themselves and also maybe brief or like giving general, how they want to be preferred and whatnot. Maybe we can start from Angga.
All right, thank you very much, Cantik. Hi everyone, my name is Angga. I'll be your panel for this round. Wish you all the best and congratulations to proceed to the Novice quarterfinal, everyone.
Thank you, Daud.
Hi everyone, my name is Daud and I'm from Ubaya. Please just refer me as a panelist in general. So yeah, best of luck for everyone. Thank you.
Kristolia.
Hi, Kristolia Rolia here. Prefer to be no preference. Yeah, good luck for the round.
Lastly, Shadania.
Hi everyone, I'm Shadania and I'm from Patimodo University. I have no gender pronouns, so best of luck for everyone.
All right, that's pretty much everyone. Quick housekeeping rule first and foremost. I'm only going to drop like first, sixth, and seventh minute in the chat. So therefore, please don't forget to keep stopwatch all the time during your speech. Before your speech, state your gender pronouns, if any, POI preferences, but specifically make sure that you're audible to everyone. And since this is a live streamed chamber, therefore you have to turn on your camera during speech only, and you can turn off when you're not a speaking speaker. I think that's all to start the Novice quarterfinals. Prime Minister, may I have the floor? Here.
Am I audible?
Yep, audible.
Okay. My pronouns are she, her. If you want to give me POI, you can just unmute yourself because I will not be checking the chat box. I'll start my speech. 3, 2, 1. Teenagers or youngsters in our current status quo, most of them want to be influencer because they think of being influencer as a shortcut to success. As a we should actively promote the media portrayals about the failure of influencer in order to minimize the amount of teenagers that want to become influencer and acting as a counterbalance towards the narrative that the narrative that happened in our status quo that being influencer is just a shortcut to success. First, let me define what influencer are. So influencers are those who rose to fame by using social media. This may include like dancing on TikTok or creating vlogs on YouTube, etc. What is the state interest? So the state as state, they need to make sure that teenagers stay in school, right? They stay in school, right? Because they have burden to society. They have a moral burden to the teenagers because they are like the future of the country, right? So we must make sure that they stay in school instead of chasing these dreams of being influencer. we believe that the opposition maybe will talk about that people already know about the failure of the social media stars through social media, but under our house, we believe that this is not enough because as state, we have duty to our people, and discussion in social media isn't enough to spread the news about failure of influencer. Thus, as state, we should actively promote media portrayals about the failure of influencers, since as state, we do have control over media. Now, moving on to the justification, there are 2 points. The first one is about the nature of influencer, and second point is about the interest of state and why failure of influencer happens so many times. So, first one, nature of influencers. Panels, we can see that influencers, they get their money from content, right? Thus, as influencers, they will prioritize content over everything. For example, nowadays we can see so many influencers are leaving school in order to produce more content. This is what happened with TikTok stars or YouTube stars. Nowadays, they started living in the same house in order to produce more content and selling dreams to youth or to the teenagers about the success of being influencer. They are selling this dream that they can live with something glamour. And also that most of their content are just chasing clout, like what happened with Tim and that Jake Paul created. That they only create drama on their vlog to boost more views so they can gain money. So the narrative of being an influencer is really common in the status quo. Even Jake Paul is selling online classes to teenagers on how to become an influencer. And this class costs like this class costs like hundreds of dollars, yet people are still paying to be in this class, which means that there are markets for this, that a lot of teenagers really want to become influencer. Thus, as state, we need to counterbalance this, right? By giving media portrayals of influencer who fail. So teenagers can see from both sides. Since teenagers are young and naive, they tend to just see things from one perspective. And imagine seeing the glamour life that these influencers are having, like you get invited to the Met Gala, you get meet Drake, for example. Of course, they will create they will think that, oh, being influencer is really fine, I can get what I want. But that's just because they're teenagers, they're really naive and they don't understand things. So as government, we have the moral burden, right? So as government, we have a duty to our society, thus we should give them the portrayals of failed influencers because teenagers are the future, right? So it's really important for us to give them this. Second point is that the failure of influencer happens actually so many times. For example, we can see how musically stars rose to fame and then they just drop that and we never heard of them anymore. And this not just happened to like musically stars, but also like to Fine stars and YouTubers and etc. Like back in 2016, we heard a lot about Baby Ariel from Musically, but we barely heard of her anymore. Also about Bart Baker, who used to be like one of the YouTuber with the highest subscription, right? But now he failed miserably because they're not on trend anymore. But teenagers doesn't see this; they only see the good stuff. They don't realize like how hard it is actually to become an influencer. Like Bart Baker, now he needs to become an influencer for Chinese market and basically humiliate himself in a Chinese live streaming service in order to keep gaining money. So being influencer also make you more vulnerable to be depressed and mentally exhausted by the amount of attention that you get. And since you are a teenager, it's most likely for you to do stupid things, right? And it will be streamed online. We can see influencer like Cameron Dallas being addicted to alcohol and etc., which means that it's actually not really suitable for teenagers to become influencers because they are still young, they are still naive, because teenager is the age where you tend to do stupid things, right? But when you stop being on trend as an influencer and people stop talking about you, then you will lose your money, you will lose your fame, and you won't have safety net. Compare this to staying in school and pursuing your career later on in life, whether in art or entertainment. You will actually have safety net because you actually finish school. Then you can be stars like Maudi Ayunda or etc. So instead of becoming an influencer where it will actually like not good for your future, that's as state we do believe that we should actually actively promote media portrayals about the failure of influencer in order to counterbalance the narrative that happened in our current status quo right now, where people are selling dreams to teenagers about being influencer. So as the opening government side of the House, I'm proud to propose this motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your speech. Sorry. Thank you very much for your speech. PM, now to open the case for opening opposition. LO, you may have the floor. Here.
Thus, am I audible?
There's a little bit noise. Can you try to speak longer sentences?
Test. Am I audible?
Clear.
All right, wait, let me set my timer first. All right, my gender pronunciation is she or her, and if you have any PI, please just unmute yourself because I will not see the chat box. Thank you. I'll be starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. Panels, government have the burden to prove you why then it is within the interest of the state itself to actually actively promote media portrayals about the failure of influencer itself. They also have the burden to prove you how then this media will going to promote actively when there's no any explanation coming from government, how then they will create this actively promote and etc. Where opening government only talk about how then it will create a bad impact to the teenager and etc. And therefore we say that the burden of the government has not been answered until the last of the speech, right? Therefore, we say that opening government cannot win this debate. We believe the problem is not from the influencer itself, but the problem is that because it will create a bad impact to the society itself. Therefore, we say that it is not in line with the interest of the interest of the state to actively promote media portrayals about the failure of influencers itself, right? Two arguments I'm going to tell you in this debate. Number one, why it is bad for the vulnerable actors, to the influencer itself, and to the society itself. And second, why it is not in line with the interest of the state from the very first place, right? But before that, let's see the cases from opening government, right? They basically brought all the ideas coming from how it will create a bad impact to the teenager itself, how crucial they are or whatsoever to the extent where it will be bad for them at the end of the day. Two responses for this. Number one, we believe that it is not true. I don't get how they simply can state that teenager will learn and etc. Where in some school, actually, when you are create or when you are portrayal something bad in media, teenager will actually learn from that and you can create judgmental teenager from the very first place, right? Therefore, I don't think that how then it will create a good impact to the teenager itself when you are creating this promote media portrayals or how the failure of influencer itself, right? But second of all, even if it is true, we think that it will still be bad for the government itself to actually promoting this portrayal, a failure of influencer, because we believe that influencers is also one of the society. Therefore, we think that it is not simply. It is not true that when government said that it will create a bad impact to the teenager, because simply they basically brought how then it will focus on the teenager itself, when actually there will be lots of vulnerable actor that they have to be justified. Right? Now let's move to my argument. Why then it is bad for the vulnerable actor? We believe that it will two layers of this. Number one, to the influencer itself. Let's see what is influencers, ladies and gentlemen. That is influencer is that a person who famous on social media because of their achievements or even because of situation that create their own platform in showing to the society for a government said already told you about how then they are creating vlog and etc. Right? Moreover, we believe that influencer is also one of the society that access in the state, right? No matter what they have done, they also one of the society itself. But moreover, why then it is bad for the influencer itself? We believe that when the state actively promote the media portrayals of their failure, meaning that it will create bullying to the influencer itself, right? For example, what happened in Rachel Fenya when she has to be bullied because of this media portrayal, right? But why then bullying is so bad to be justified, right? We believe that it is not something that need to be promoted at the end of the day, because what happened in satu school, because of one failure is not mean that the people are bad to the extent where you can simply bully her and you can actually bully her or her life, right? Even if in government they might say that it is their job to become influencer, to become famous and etc. Because they include lots of people in their followers and etc. Right? On their we say that it is still bad when in their side of the house. It is not simply true when you justify that the failure of someone need to be judged by everyone or need to be judged to the society when it can actually create a bad society at the end of the day. Right? Therefore, we say that bullying is so bad to be justified when you are actually promoting the failure of influencer itself. Right? But moreover, why then it will be bad for the influencer itself? We believe that the idea of punishment, we think that punishment is enough to for the influencer itself when we see that the comment are on their social media are hating them, for example. Therefore, we think that the punishment itself are already excess, and we think that it is enough for the influencer itself, and do not and cannot be media portrayal a failure of influencer itself later, right? All right, now let's see why then the commenting itself will be very bad for the influencer itself. We think that because of that, that's punishment. We think that it is enough for them to actually rely what their mistake and etc. Therefore, we think that by for the state by they promote media portrayals that the failure of influencers is really bad and etc. to the extent where these people are so bad, so do not follow them etc. We think that it is very bad to be justified, right? Yes, the POI.
Yes, thank you. You mentioned that those means comment will be their punishment. However, these mean comments are inconsequential. They are easily deleted, easily ignored. Thus, your argument is false. Thank you.
Okay, I think that even if yes, we think that I think that even if you said that it is their job to be to be bullied and etc. because they're famous and etc. We think that it is not true when this because it's not in line with the state that I will explain to you later in my argument, right? Now let's move to my argument. Why then it will be very bad to the society itself? Because we believe that at the end of the day, in their side of the house, society will be very crucial in both sides, even when it comes to the state itself, right? On the other side, it will build in the judgmental society, right? Why it is better, ladies and gentlemen, by the state actively promote media portrayal, the failure of influencer, it will create a judgmental society. But why the judgmental society is very bad to be justified, right? We believe that the interest of the state is that they want to create a better society to their environment, right? Therefore, we think that by showing this and create mental society where they will compare each other, when they will trigger each other, we think that it is not bad to be justified, and it is not in line with the interest of the state itself. If we think that the society that will be created later in government setup the house will be the judgmental society who always judging each other, that will be very bad to be justified, right? But now let's move to my argument, to my second argument, why then it is not in line with the interest of the state itself. We believe that the interest of the state is that they will have to protect every society, right? We explain to you that how then this influencer are one of the society where they also create a good impact to the environment, where they also help lots of people in terms of helping people to the society, right? Therefore, I think that the protection coming from the state is that is their interest from the very first place, right? Therefore, at the end of the day, it will also create a better society when they're actually going to show how the successful of the influencer itself, when it can actually motivate the society to become more successful to their life, because we see that how big the influencer of the influence itself, right? Therefore, at the end of the day, we think that all the argument coming from government cannot be stand, and we think that it is not in line with the state should actually promote the media. Therefore, for all this reason, we are very proud to oppose. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to wait for a moment because one of the panel needs to reset her Wi-Fi. So yeah, please wait.
Cantik, I'm done. Thank you.
All right, cool. Now to continue the case for OG DPM, you may have a floor here.
Am I audible and visible?
Yep, audible and visible.
Can I have a minute to set a timer? My gender pronouns is she or her, and if you have any UIs to deliver in the middle of my speech, you can just frankly unmute because
I'm sorry, DPM. Your voice is kind of like
kind of laggy here. Yes. Okay. Okay. Can we have a minute to switch the device? Yes, is this better? Yes. For me, it's still like what do we?
Hi, building manager here. Can you try speaking while turning off your camera?
Oh, okay. Test. Is this better?
Hi, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I got disconnected. Yes, that's definitely better.
Okay, so sorry for not turning my camera on because of how laggy my audio will sounds. And yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay, my gender pronouns is she or her, and if you have any POIs to deliver in the middle of my speech, you can just kindly unmute your mic because I will not check the chat box. And I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. To start off my debate, I would like to clarify things on why, as the government side of the House, we do think that this is the government responsibility to be able to portray the failure of influencers to our society, right? As the government side of the House, we do believe that the state itself are responsible for their society futures, right? And seeing the facts, a lot of young kids are willing to be an influencers on how they are seeing this jobs as something very different and very perfect. Meanwhile, what they should have understand is how this job is like any other jobs, like, for example, being a chef, being a doctor, pilot, and etc. Right? What are the pros and cons of being an influencer? And if the influencer itself are only portraying the good things of being an influencer, who do you think has the jobs to provide them with the reality? Not to mention that the one who's going to continue our journey as a society in our country is the youngsters, right? And it's the same as saying that being a doctor may have the chance for you to do malpractice, or being a pilot has a high chance for you to knock off the plane and trigger warning might kill lots of people. It is the exact same thing like that. And we need to show our society to be able to see the truth. Because imagine if every young kids today having their future jobs as an influencer, they don't have the interest anymore on being like, for example, a politicians or etc. This will later on lead our society to not be able to see that the real pro and cons of being having a job. Like, there are lots of the pro and cons of being for having a certain jobs, like, yeah, for example, as I mentioned before, right? And the opposition brings two ideas. First one is judgmental and also about the bully. Judgmental people come from the narrative that they create on how perfect their life is, not to mention that most influencers is always selling their lifestyles online on how flashy they are, and they will get bullied, but we can see that even with the media portrayal from the government, they are showing the failure on their life. Those people can still judge them. So this is the exact reasons on why we want our society to really understand on that the influencers. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I think when you say it about teenagers, when teenagers' characterization is they always follow what they see, meaning showing the bad things, the likelihood for them to become a liberalist is like to happen under your side, right?
I'm sorry, your sound is very laggy. I cannot hear you clearly.
I think when you say it about teenagers, meaning the characterization is teenagers, they always follow what they see, meaning showing the bad things, the likelihood for them to become rebellious is likely to happen under your side.
That is exactly why we want to portray the things that the influencers are not always perfect. They went through a lot of struggles and also the difficulties that this our society needs to understand, right? We want to normalize on how influencers also went to a certain phases where they are not feeling like who they are, or they are not living a good life. We want our society to be able to understand this, right? And also, secondly, is about how they bring about the bully. Bully isn't exclusive in our house under your exclusive in our house. Under your house, social media stars are also showing their personal life so that they can still be bullied. Even when they show good things, people with bad hearts will still bully them. So it's not exclusive under our house, but happens under your house too, right? And moving on to my arguments is how this will motivate them, right? Notice on how the influencers are always portraying that their life are very perfect and very fit, very tailor right. like, and how they are always promoting the depiction on how their lives are going, such as traveling, buying expensive stuff, and meeting world celebrities and etc. Also, the fact that they are always going to motivating others in terms of being like them. But as the governors under the house, we do think that being an influencer to our society means it is better to always show on how the real struggle is to become an influencer. The narratives that are created by the contents that they share is how they cannot make mistakes, right? They need to be perfect. Even the society came up with the idea of how influencer needs to accept anything that the netizens say or did to them. And this is what we don't want. Narrative will slowly shape a more judgmental view inside of our society. They will most likely to not feel any guilt if any influencers are going through a hard time, and also is there something that they did that the things that they're doing are not going very smoothly. Like, in fact, many swears about how they are happy with the failures that the influencers are currently facing. And we do think that this is a very unhealthy environment for both of our society and also the influencers. We need to start normalizing the idea of failure, that everyone can feel failure and also went to a lot of struggles in their life. The depictions of influencers are now very unrealistic on how our society are demanding too much in terms of what they are doing. Failure is not something bad as well. Well, of course, at first it is very hard to deal with, right? But we need to know that every human has its own phase on facing failure. It is completely normal. For examples, like there are a lot of influencers who are expanding their business into cuisine sector, where even if they didn't have background on it, they still have the right to try things that they might enjoy, right? But once they fail, everyone are coming at them, mocking at them, such as you're not talented in this, you shouldn't try this, you're not good at that, and also laugh at them. This case happens to lots of celebrities, and one of them is like, for example, Luna, where she opens a coffee shop and it got closed shortly. Everyone is coming at her, right? And with the pressure that our society gives, of course, it will put a lot of burden towards our influencer. Remember what happened with Rachel Fenya, one of the biggest influencers right now. When she decided to get a divorce and her marriage are not going well, everyone is coming at her and bullied her for how she's not a great wife and how she was accused for cheating. And in fact, this is not the real story, right? Everyone, our society are not seeing what happens behind her life. They only see on what the society puts in her their social media, right? And this bullies later on will increase the number of depressions and stress to the influencers because of how society are not used to failure. We want our society to have more empathy towards those who are going through this hardship. We need to make sure that these influencers are also like other people. They need to sacrifice a lot of things for their own success that have no guarantee on how long this success will last, right? And this will create a sort of warning to other people who are very interested in being influencers. To see the relevancy, we can see a lot of young elementary kids right now see Reza Arlat or Charlie D'Amelio as their role model. Most of kids nowadays want their future jobs to be a gamer, YouTuber, or etc. And why this happens? They don't, because of how they don't see enough examples of the things that happens behind the camera of being an influencer, right? And the reality when the content they make are flop, and the business that they run only lasts for a few months, and not to mention that the narrative that the society gives is that being influencer needs to be perfect and a more realistic and more unrealistic standardization. And because of this, we want as a state, we want to give the exact way for our society and also our influencers to normalize the things that might happen in the future, right? And we want our society to really have the empathy that failure is something normal, that we don't need, we don't have to judge someone because of the failure. And I beg to propose this motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the speech, DPM. Now to close the first half of the debate. DLO, you may have the floor. Here.
Okay, check. Am I audible?
Yep, audible.
Okay. Okay, let me set my timer real quick. My gender pronunciation is he or him. I preference through chat. And I'll be starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. Panels, we think that the government team assumes that the society will be just like big kids and will never grow up. Like even if like they tell the society is like only like kids, and they actually like kids is just into like cartoons, or they are like teens are not into something like like into Lambetura itself too. So just there's one thing that I will do in my speech, that I want we will prove you that why it is not unnecessary to promote this by the state itself. So we see that the first thing, like the characteristic of the state itself, the state should be impartial, where they should move or work in their field, such as examples, making policies, or treating all people equally, and etc. And then we should see like the characteristic of the influencers itself, like when you are saying like portraying the failures of itself, like we see there are two kinds of failures that happens, like for the first one, it will be the small failures, and the second one is the kind of big failures, such as maybe scandals or something. So why do we think that it is unnecessary to promote this kind of failure? So for the first one, for the small failures itself, like just in terms of kind of views, like it didn't have like it not enough views, or like not interesting content, that we think it is unnecessary to promote it, because it is enough for themselves, like they will kind of left out from itself, like the audience itself will kind of leave them. So it should not be, it is unnecessary for the government itself to promote this or to protect this kind of failure. Like there have some important or more important things to do. And for the second one, like there is the big kind of failure, like the scandal one, or etc. Then we think that they just merely can interfere with this. That why they should not interfere into this, because like the interest of the state itself, like the state should protect the human rights itself. Like it is the interest of the state itself. Like they should be impartial too. Like I said already, they should move forward in their own field. Like, and there's an idea of principle of presumption of innocence. Like everyone should be treated as someone that are not guilty, at least or until they are being decided guilty by the court itself. Like even if they are considered guilty by the court itself, like they can interfere more. Why? Because promoting it, because why they like my person said, they have their own audience. Like the audience itself they have audience that like would likely to see them as something bad. So they as influencers too, they have a big audience. So they will likely get the judge or the penalty by the audience itself too. And even if they are guilty, I think it is enough without actively promoting this, because they will get their own penalty when they are decided guilty by the court. They will go to jail. In jail itself, you know, they will have a suffering life. They will much feel pain in there, and all of their wealth or properties are taken by the gov. Like if we take an example, like such as Doni Salmanan or Indra Kents, like when they are such influencers in trading kind of sector. Like if they are proven guilty by the court itself, like it is not unnecessary like to promote it actively itself, because they have such a large kind of audience. Like people already know they are bad, and people will likely leave them. And like I said earlier, the government only assumes that the people or the audience itself could not think, like they could not develop their thinking. Like people are like in the status quo, they are progressive. They could differentiate which one they should follow or which are not. So like in this kind of problem, like the states should not actively promoting this. So then in the current status quo, like I said earlier, like the society is progressive too. It in making failure, even if those are so great influencer with many audience. Like the moment when they are having a scandal or being updated in Lambe Tura, for example, like their audience and others will judge them anyway. So if government wants for them to portray in order to get penalty, it is not necessary at all. Like the media such as Nyinyir Update is enough for this influencer to get their failure updated in social media. So it is not like the job of the government itself. Like the job of government or the state should tackle some kind of problems that are more big, like other crimes or criminality or something like that, or even poverty. They should tackle a more important problem like this. Like it's not that really obligation to this kind of stuff. So the government assumes like what where all society are innocent and or there are no media at all that informing the failure of this informing this influencers failure to the society. Like this is wrong because society is not that innocent at all. Like society has commented and even giving them hate comments like you should not appear in the social media, or maybe like the trigger warning, you are deserve to die. I would think that this is exist and it is more than enough for the influencer itself. Like it is likely not, the state should not reality to promote this like this. That is why that even in government the society will be more judgmental because of how they how the government should will portray this kind of problem. So we think it is enough for them. And perhaps like we think that the work that the governments like to have, or the works that will be conducted or will be formed in the government side of the house, a work that full of lambe tura, and we as the opposition team doesn't want that. And we think with all of this reason, we are really proud to oppose this.
All right, thank you very much for speech, DOO. Before we continue, I want to go to the bathroom for a quick 2 minutes. If anyone want to go to the bathroom as well, this is the time, yeah. But
Okay,
please,
I'll go too.
yeah, notify if you're back as well. Thank you. Is Leah already back? Okay, perfect timing. Now to continue the case, for closing government, member of government, you may have a floor. Here. Member of government.
Sorry about that. Am I audible?
Yep, audible and visible.
Very well, thank you. My POI preference, if you could unmute, that would be fine. And I'll say go ahead and you can say your POI. If I didn't answer, that means I didn't hear it. Please try again immediately. So I will begin my speech in 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen of the panel, recognize key things that the opening benches has failed to provide. They have failed to provide the mechanization of how they will promote this kind of influencer failure in the media and so forth. This is why the opening government shall fail against the closing government, which is us, because we will be providing you to how we should become achieving the goals of telling the kids and etc. and protecting them, and we will be providing you a clear mechanism on how we should do this motion. Moving on, before I continue to my arguments and my explanations, I would like to provide you the immediate urgency on this and the status quo as of present moment. Ladies and gentlemen, right now, what is currently controlling the media? What is currently making sure nothing bad is going on? It is the government itself, but we are not actually actively promoting it. Protection that the opening government has been deciding is actually given on the burden of companies such as YouTube, Google, Facebook, Instagram, and etc. Ladies and gentlemen, the status quo is quite clear. Even though the companies are currently being given this mandate to protect social media and children, they are failing. We can see there are predators in the internet and social media, there are scammers and etc. Which is why it is the burden of the government or the states to actually protect the children, because the state is the only organization that has the rich resource, love, and manpower to actually succeed in this endeavor, which is to protect the children. Once again, the actors that we are currently protecting is children. Something that the opposition has failed to mention is that they claim they are protecting society and the vulnerable actors, but they have never mentioned to you how they would defend kids. They never explain to you how they would protect children. That's their first argument false. Moving on. How should we, as the government, as the closing government, will provide you the mechanization? Simply, we will never reveal public information. We will never reveal sensitive private information because that is against the law, and we state doesn't go against this law. However, we will provide public information, how they fall, their crimes, who caused their crimes, what happens to them afterwards, and etc. Ladies and gentlemen, we are not doxing them. We are simply acting lawfully to provide the public the necessary information to make a wise decision. We will create documentary or promote documentary from other journalists, for example, or we could use school systems and education system to show kids what happens, even what happens to these people when they fail. And we will also tell the danger through social media and other outlets such as the news outlet or other state-owned media to show the dangers that exist, and also the dangers that forces the mechanization behind influencers and how they are forced to commit to these immoral actions in the first place. Moving on to my arguments, I brought you several arguments today. First of all, why should we actually do this? Again, we are protecting the kids. We are raising awareness because the danger of social media exists in scammers and misinformation, and these can have deadly consequences. The largest recently is the misinformation by Andrew Tate, because he is as a misogynist fighting against women's rights. He is fighting against equal treatment, which has seen in youth and in schools. Kids no longer respecting their peers, their female peers, and instead they are acting against them. They male youth no longer want to accept tasks given by female authority from their teachers. This is dangerous in the education system, as you won't longer want to learn anymore. Moving on, there's also the example. There are multiple influencers from Bitcoin and crypto market that acts as scammer, and many people are currently influenced by them. These are not regulated at all, ladies and gentlemen, right now, and we should be providing key reasons, key examples on the dangers of their existence to prevent people from falling scams because they know they are scams. We know from the latest example, for example, the Luna crash, the coin crashed and it resulted in people losing their life saving and people losing their jobs and their livelihood. Moving on. I already established that is the existence of those misinformation and dangers of scammers and etc. But what happens in more direct way? There are many influencers out there, ladies and gentlemen, that actually actively predators on children. These are pedophiles. These are sexual abusers and etc. For example, Bashar, a famous Minecraft YouTubers, violated women. We know R. Kelly raped several women. We know Cryolity. We all know Gonzalo Garron. These are people that are actively attacks children and young teenagers, and who are the main target audience for social media and influencers? Again, teens and children, which is why the increase of awareness gives them a shield to protect this, and it will show these influencer failures as they would be prison and etc. We will be giving kids a reason why to be wary. We will be giving kids a reason why they shouldn't actually trust social media influencers that much, and it will give them increased wisdom. Moving on, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to provide additional rebuttals from the Prime Minister. Even though they have provided their goals of giving children back to schools and etc., they once again have failed to provide urgency or mechanization of how they will give this counterbalance, which we have succeeded, and thus we won against the opening government. The leader of opposition once again declared that they will that our motion or proposal will create a judgmental society. Ladies and gentlemen, instead of a judgmental society, it is in the interest of the government to create a wise society, which is what the motion, if succeeds, will do. It will give them additional information of consideration. People will know, as the information slide has provided, the dangers behind how social media business model exists, like in YouTube and TikTok, how they will harvest data, which makes them more wary. They will also know the dangers of influencer and how they can be dangerous as well. And they will know that people can become predatory in that way as well, which means instead of actually becoming judgmental, they are actually becoming wise. They know the danger and they know the merits of it, the risk and the benefit, the cost and the price that is associated with becoming influencers, because now they know they can fall into the same pitfalls. And even more, if they continue to want to actually be influencers, the best case scenario in ourselves is that even though they will continue, worst case scenario, even if they continue to become influencers, they will avoid the pitfalls of previous influencers and their failure, which creates a more healthier generation of influencers in the future. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, I would also like to mention a simple fact. The awareness of this also increases the protection against poverty. Again, social media influencer isn't a stable job. If we continue to provide them with this kind of risk and we show people that there are risks involved in this, they will begin to seek alternative, more stable jobs, such as engineers, doctors, and etc., which will become a better fit for the future of the generation of the nation, which we as the state once again, it will benefit the state ourselves, instead of forcing them or showing them and continuing the growth of influence as of today. So once again, we as the government, closing government, proudly propose, and we believe we as the closing government has won over the opening government. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the speech, Member of Government. Now to open the case for closing opposition, Member of Opposition, you may have the floor here.
Okay, check, am I audible?
Yep, audible and visible.
Okay, you can give your ages and with yourself. I am gender pronouns for her. I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Edu government bench only can win this debate if they can prove to us what the urgency of the state. They are sure to actively promote the value of the influencer itself. Then why the benefit that will they receive if they do that? What the urgency? What the moment state want to actively promote the value of the influencer, and why then? Why then this will be create a good protection towards the society itself? And the government bench can never prove to us why then this will be good under the house. Second, government bench never prove to us how the mechanism of actively promote that they means under the house. So CEO will detect this. Actively promote means you always share the failure of certain influencer to the society through the social media. So the society will be knowing about how the failure of the influencer itself at all as a whole. So we think that this will be bad under this house. To respond towards the opening government. First, they are already case glorifying about how the teenagers look like will be the moment we are actively promoting the value of the influencer itself. But we think that teenagers is not exclusive enough because there is a parents that can control them. They still do school that they give knowledge and value to how to be good society, how to like a choice, which good and bad and something like that. We think that the moment second speaker said that the value is normal, then why you should promote the value of this towards the society, then create a narrative that we can tolerate their value and we should ban them from the entertainment or from the social media and so on and so forth. So we think that the opening government cannot win this debate. Second is going to the closing government. The moment they want to actively promote the value of the influencer, they want to create a protection to the children from the government. But we think that's not true, and this will not happen under the house. It will just create a narrative to children that they should not do failure at all. Then directly government will promote your failure on the society. You will get a judge, you will get the judgment, you will get bullying, for example, and so on and so forth. We think that this will be create a bad narrative. The moment society, the moment children will getting narrative that you should not do anything the failure and something like that. So we think that this will just create a bad narrative for the society. So going to my argument, two things must be. Firstly, why the professionalism influencer is very important, and then second, what the impact of actively promote failure of influencer. Going to the first argument, why professionalism of influencer is very important. But first thing, that why the justification why we should not actively promote is failure from the influencer is not show. It doesn't show we have to promote them because it was harmful to the influencer itself. The moment you are the promote, you will directly broken their image and so on and so forth. We do believe that people already progressive enough. They know how they should follow from their to be idol, for example. They already enough to choose which good and bad. So we think that we don't need to promote the color itself. And then also the house, you know that the influencer will cooperate with so many brands, right? We believe that both of them should have professionalism that they will do their best effort to close all of the weakness or wrong that they have, so they can create a good reputation to sell their brand to society, right? We already have a check and balance. We have regulation. We have agreement. We have agreement that can manage the activity of our cooperation between influencer with certain brand, right? For example, input how they punishment if they do something out from the contract, for example, or do something bad that can smear the reputation of the brand. We think that this is enough because the agreement have power to tie both of them, and how the cooperation will look like either it's success or fail in the end of the day. That's why professionalism is very important on their work, because not only them but also impact towards the company of certain brand. We do believe that every job have a failure, like certain failure, business can failure, and then why under the sort of the house you just promote the failure of the influencer itself? What do you jealousy and why the benefit that you can get the moment you are promote the failure of the influencer itself? Going to the second argument, why then the impact of the actively promote the failure towards the influencer itself? First, we do believe that everyone on their job is want to be perfect, so they can get a maximal of output in the end of the day. But also look that human is sometimes do wrong or do something in the outside of the value. Look to how influencer that still newbie, that still learn about how look like the moment they do wrong the video on their TikTok, for example, and directly promote their value. Look that this will directly drop them from the social media. Not edu, everyone is still on their process. The moment you directly promote their the value means that you not respect the process to be success, and this is why, and then this is problematic. But for that, I think the POI.
Okay, thank you for the POI. So it's just that when you said that why is it the failure for influencers, it's just because the influencers are much more have the bigger influence towards children. They are more invasive to their lives. Thank you.
We think that this will not happen because the moment you are promote the follower of the influencers, means you are create a narrative in society that if you do something failure, it means that you are very wrong, you are very worse in condition, and you're like not human because you do failure. That's why we think that this will not of the narrative itself, and then we want to opposite motion. But going to how you work, you should respect them. The moment you are directly influencer, it will be problematic. You respect each other and not directly grab. Look to how social media will only using as a platform to prove that certain influencer is bad. We think that this is not suitable with the ideal condition of sosmed, which is we using as certain when we tired, for example, when we talk to with our family, but it will be changed to promote the value of the influencer. We think that this is bad because society will never get satisfied or getting happiness from sosmed because it's already changes. Second, influencers still have to continue their life. The moment people already judge them, how they can survive and continue their life, the moment all people reject their existence. And the last one, the moment you are promote the value of influencer, means the moral education coming from the government is still not enough, the education is still not enough, and then how the protection under use of the house is can be coming from government to protect the society. But under the hours of the house, the protection will be more happen because because the government will giving more enough education from them that the value is okay, and then the moment you are do something wrong, you still have a second change, for example, and something like that. So we think that the protection it will be more happen under hours of the house, and we want to post this motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the speech. MO, now to close the case for government. Government whip here.
Okay, I hope I'm audible and visible.
Yep, audible and visible.
Okay, thank you, Kak, for the POI preference. I prefer for you to put your POI through chat after I allow you, and then you may say your POI. Before I start, let me set up my timer for a bit. Okay. Okay, I will be starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. Panels we see today in this debate in our chamber is that the opposition side, the whole side, failed to identify to you why what exactly is the most vulnerable actor. If we do go through or oppose this motion, is the fact is it about children, right? In which the entire government side already appealed to you, but we believe that the opposition side has barely touched on how the impact it is going to have on children, especially in the cases of influence, in the cases of predatory influencers. Before moving on to my conclusions and my rebuttals, I would like to touch on every bench in which the opening government basically lack on mechanism. I would like to put an emphasis on that, which we already provided to you, in which that we say, oh, you know what, we're going to promote the media portrayal. For example, we're going to put it on TV, the clips or documentaries. Keep in mind that we're not going to make half-ass documentaries. We're going to make comprehensive and much more educative content to educate people how influencers are going to fail and what happens exactly during their journey in which they become an influencer. We're not going to purposefully make the regulatory comments about them, like where they say they put an example of Lambetura and Nir, blah blah blah. We believe that it's not going to happen because we're going to make a better mechanism to promote their failures. Because the purpose of the failures is to educate, not to derogate them. Secondly, for the opening opposition, the argument basically boils down to two things. Firstly, it's bad for the influencers, in which they believe the influencers is in fact the vulnerable actors, when in fact it is not, right? They believe that it's going to create bullying, that it's going to create hate comments. The thing is that hate comments is going to exist whether it is on your side or our side. I mean, it already exists in status quo, so there is basically no difference. And even if it is going to be much more bad, hate comments are basically the consequences of the accepted consequences of being a public figure, and it is not exclusive on influencers. For example, government officials, for example, right? Artists, for example, like singers. They all of them have experienced some sort of hate comments, so it's not exclusive on an influencer. Secondly, the argument in which they believe it is going to be bad for society, in which it's going to create a judgmental society. Panels, again, this is not exclusive, in which that judgmental society already exists in our status quo. For example, the existence of people who like to julid, for example, Lambetura accounts, there are many of them. I mean, it already shows how judgmental society already is. And even if it is going to be worse, why that is not necessarily going to happen? Because the thing is that we're still going to have media and promotions and advertisement of influencers, right? For example, these influencers going to invite to be the actor of Shopee, example, right? Or Tokopedia or Lazada. We see that advertisement in YouTube, and influencers exist in that advertisement. I mean, it already exists. It's not going to disappear suddenly on our side of the house, right? Secondly, why this argument falls is that the success of influencers are already prevalent in status quo, whereas the failures are not as prevalent. And we think that it is important to counterbalance the failures and the balance, because the failures and the success, because the success is already overwhelmingly invasive in our daily lives. I mean, every time we watch YouTube, for example, every time we open Instagram, there's always the faces of influencers being happy, spending money, etc., etc. And we just believe that it's wiser to put them their failures of the ones who are already fed. Now, the deputy leader of opposition coming up in this debate saying that, oh, you know what, state shouldn't interfere, oh, it is not their interest, blah blah blah. But the thing is that they contradict themselves by saying that, oh, you know, the state should protect the people. The thing is, the state is going to fail to protect the people if they you know, they do not actually advocate the dangers of influencers, because nowadays there are a lot of cases of influencers utilizing their fame, utilizing their money to actually become predatory influencers towards children. For example, an example of this would be Saiful Jamil, right? Saiful Jamil or Andika Kangen Ben. I mean, you can see that these cases of people, you know, using their fame and ability and power to actually do bad things, especially towards children. And that exactly on the closing government, we would like to prevent and educate people. Another point mentioned by the deputy leader of opposition is the fact that, you know, they have a large audience, so the consequences are already big. Now, the thing is that they assume because they have a large audience, people will already know. It's not necessary. You cannot guarantee every single of their audience actually know, and therefore our efforts is basically going to increase the chances of these people, of these large audiences, to be more educated about what their role models are behind the cameras, right? Moving on to the closing opposition. Now, the closing opposition coming up into this debate saying that there is no urgency, even though we already said there is an urgency. I mean, have you even heard influencers of harassing, committing sexual actions toward minors? You have, right? There's a lot of cases. There's no reason for you to say there is no urgency, because the state responsibility is to protect children, to protect people who are vulnerable, especially when it's hard to control children's activities on the internet. Right? The government has repeatedly trying to protect them through, you know, making child mode, YouTube child mode, for example, or limiting age restrictions. But the thing is that the children has always been, you know, very adamant in bypassing all of these protection methods that the government has trying to impose. So therefore, basically, we're going to take a different approach in which we try to educate exactly how the influencers are, in which how they are failing, how they are failure in their careers, or the bad things they have committed during their time being an influencer. Right? Also, the closing opposition basically repeated the opening opposition argument in which, oh, you know what is going to break their influencer image. The thing is that we don't get is why exactly protecting their image is actually beneficial for the vulnerable actors. Why exactly protecting them is also protecting their children. We still don't get that. We still not get the point of justification for the closing opposition. Then finally, why is it only, you know, they ask, why is it only the failures of influencers? It's because, as I said in my video, it's because they are the ones who often have a lot of power or ability to manage to convince children to buy things. For example, influencer said to a children, oh, you know what, buy this, and then the children, oh, I want to buy that, and then the children convince their parents to buy that thing. That is exactly the mechanism how influencers manages to create, to have the power to influence children and eventually adults to do things that they want. So they have a lot of power most jobs or most professions in status quo currently have. Conclusions: why CG triumphs triumphs in this debate? CG is the only one who has mechanizations and aligning with the urgency. Why exactly the state is the one should be doing it? Because they have more power, they have more money and resources. Secondly, we appeal the most affected party through this motion, which are children and teenagers. And finally, our arguments might sound similar to the opening government, but our analysis is much more better and comprehensive. Therefore, we're so proud to propose. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your speech, Government Whip. Now to conclude the whole debate, Opposition Whip may have the floor. Here.
Check, am I audible?
Yep, audible.
Okay, thank you. If you guys have any POI, just type in the chat box and please don't unmute yourself. I will give you time later. I will starting my speech in 3, 2, and One, judge, we do believe when we are living the status quo right now, what is the important thing like the government set of the house already glorified to you is to protect society. But look how under their set of the house, they are already proved to you about one thing. They only glorifying about the bad things. For example, whenever you are being an influencer, you get a failure, you get or yada yada. But look how it shows to you under the government bench, they only glorifying about the bad things. No one good thing that happen coming from the government bench. They are never proved to us about what is exactly that they solve or that can be happen to protect the society at the end of the day, because of the protection coming from the society is also can be happen under our federal house, because the regulation is still exists and the social control it still exists under our federal house. Looking how in the government bench, they only glorifying also about the all of the failure coming. They only glorifying about the protection from the sosmed itself. It should be exist because the sosmed is already harm, for example, and they also talk to us about the at the end of the day when we are when we are supporting this kind of the failure or normalize or extract, it will be create a harm. We also knowing that the protection toward the subnet itself is already exists, because the feature of the subnet itself, they have a limiting age. Second of all, filter feeds or harass things, and the last one, the feature can be making sure that what is exactly that they can be posting at the end that it's already good. And second of all, we also knowing that there are so many jobs in our status quo right now. But why just only the influencer? It will be get a glorifying or etc. But we also knowing that the government cannot doing this because of the immoral to do by the government, and the failure should not be promoted at the end of the day. We also knowing that under our federal house it's already enough, because we knowing that the government is already protecting us. The government tried their best, and the government didn't have any kind of access towards the film itself. They didn't have any kind of about the news itself. They can spread the news itself, but they didn't have any kind of thing to do or a justification to create a film about the failure of the influencer itself. Creating an impact of changing the state, it doesn't mean that you should glorifying about the failure itself. It should be a good thing to be glorifying about the achievement of the influencer itself. It will be create a protection more better under our federal house. We knowing in the layer of the individuality, at the end of the day, like my first speaker already told to you, that at the end of the day, you will be create a harmful to the privacy. Second of all, bullying get rejected in every time and in their life. First of all, generalize that they are bad in every single way. And the last one, they didn't have any kind of filter. Whenever the people are so many glorifying about this kind of failure, and they didn't have, and at the end of the day, this kind of thing get so many harm in their individuality. And the government, under the government set of the house also, they get harm because of why? At the end of the day, no one people or the people, whenever they didn't have any kind of interest to being an influencer. At the end of the day, the society wanted to making sure that they have, for example, the innovation. They are being a digital creative. They were showing off about what they can to do. It will be less at the end of the day, just because they will be thinking about what is exactly the failure that can be happen of influencer. The harm will be more big at the end of the day. It shows to you the government didn't have any kind of bigger chance of beneficial at the end of the day. It's very, very harm towards the layer of the government itself. Before that, yes, POI.
Thank you. How you mentioned that it will be harmful. However, if somebody died by suicide of hate comments, we are by educating kids, we can teach them to not to be nice and not do those hate comments, and thus benefiting those influencers again by education. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. For that, I would like to tell to you that what is exactly that happened under our side of the house. We also knowing are being an influencer. Why the people are very, very interesting towards the influencer? Because the influencers are so many beneficial at the end of the day. Looking how whenever we are glorifying about the actively promoting the sosmed portrayal about the failure of the influencer, at the end of the day, it just shows to you that this is the failure of the government or the failure of the educational system itself about the moral education. Because at the end of the day, the government just only glorify about what is the exactly failure itself, how the educational system is already enough to cater up the layer of the society and every single thing that the problematic issues that happen at the end of the day. We knowing that the educational system, it shows to you under our side of the house, the educational system is already it's so bad, or they can be doing a check and balance at the end of the day, or yada yada yada. Even if the government wanted to show about the failure, all of the job have a failure. For example, being a lecturer, they are doing a sexual harassment. Why is not being a glorifying at the end of the day? Why it will not be doing or have making a film or documentary at the end of the day? At the end of the day, they generalize that the influencer is a bad job. It will be exist and it's very, very harmful at the end of the day, like I told you before. And why the government not check and balance in the moral of education itself? The regulation is what is exactly the good thing or the wrong thing that happened. We also knowing that the influencer gives so many benefits, like I told you before. For example, towards the state, we all have a death no limit, a Jerome Pauline. They all have a contribute towards the country. They are a digital creator in the educational. They can be supporting us to making sure increasing the number of motivations for the teenager itself or yada yada yada. But look how whenever we are not glorifying about it, whenever we are glorifying about the failure, what is exactly that they think? The good things it can be hide at the end of the day just because this failure is very, very glorified by the state, because the people will be thinking about all of the coming from the government is a good thing. No one check and balance, no one a good thing can be happen more bigger under the government side of the house at the end of the day. We knowing at the end of the day, the states will be hard to find the people with the amazing things or the good innovation things that at the end of the day, and the people will be being lazy, for example, to making sure that they will be showing off about their innovation or etc. Knowing that we also know the image is still important towards the influencer itself, because at the end of the day, they are still have engagement with the MSMEs, for example. Second of all, the individuality and the state itself, like I told you before. Therefore, that under our side of the house, it will not be good at the end of the day and bring more harm rather than good at should win in this debate. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the speech, Opposition Whip. That concludes Novice quarterfinals. Thank you for all the debaters. You can virtually cross floor, shake hands, and